Welcome to the debut of Mid-Missouri Moguls. I'm here with Travis Adair of InfiniTech Consulting, LLC. He's an owner and co-founder of the company. They do everything from managed services to end-user computing. And for a lot of local companies here, small to medium-sized businesses, InfiniTech basically serves as their IT department. So with that, thanks for coming on, Travis.
Sure.
And I know it's not the easiest industry to explain really quickly, or at least for people that aren't familiar with it. So I was wondering if you could give a little bit more of a detailed explanation as what exactly you guys do.
Sure. Well, we really kind of have two facets to the business. One is we focus on some project-based business, which is, these are more focused towards like mid-market companies, with a few more employees, maybe 200 to 1,000 employees, some universities, school districts, larger municipalities, and then some corporations as well, where they may have IT staff, of 1 to 4 that kind of support their current infrastructure. But then they use us from a consulting standpoint, so they'll call us in if they're looking to make some kind of major change or improvement in their IT operations. So we'll come in and consult with them on what they're trying to accomplish, and then propose maybe a combination of some new hardware, software, and some implementation services to get them to where they want to be. And then usually they'll hire us to do the project. We'll come in, implement all the new hardware, software, integrate it with their existing systems, train their staff on how to maintain it moving forward, and then kind of move on to the next project.
Okay, so I noticed like on your website you've got like end user computing, which is one of it looks like probably, and data center solutions. Were probably some of the ones that were more in that project based.
Sure, yeah. So end user computing, we're kind of referring to large scale management of endpoint devices. So solutions have to do with that, such as virtual desktop infrastructure, and or mobile device management, things of that nature. Then your data center focuses more on what's in the back room, right? Servers, storage, virtualization of server virtualization, networking, cord edge networking, campus scale wireless solutions, things of that nature.
Okay, so and I've noticed like with the I guess the desktop virtualization and on the networks, it's with the networks, a lot of those things are going more towards the, I guess, cloud type.
Sure.
So what's the trend that you're seeing with some of those types of project based? Where's everything headed? I guess.
Well, it's interesting because we started seeing this cloud hit the scene 8 to 10 years ago, where you had everyone's like, well, had Amazon, AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft has their solution with Azure. First they started standing these up, and in the mid-market space, IT departments, a lot of them said, well, let's rush to get stuff out there. You really had two fields of thought. One was, no, we want to protect everything, it's unsecure. And then two says, and then you said, well, no, we need to get everything out there, right? Mm-hmm. And the ones that rushed out there with everything, realized pretty quickly that, while it is secure, the cost benefit, wasn't necessarily there. So a lot of them are starting to kind of move back. We need to bring things back in, right? We need to redeploy infrastructure in-house,
The cost benefit was, I would have figured that it was cheaper to do it on the cloud.
Well, you would think, right?
Yeah. Sounds like because the whole thing with the in-house stuff is that it's all on like physical servers and
well,
things,
yeah.
Right?
So and you think you get better economies of scale there, but but a wholesale move wasn't successful, right?
Okay.
and there was a lot of challenges behind that with, what's the bandwidth requirements to, get there. And, now I'm taking stuff that, didn't necessarily need all this high availability, high end performance and stuff. And I'm putting it in a place that has that. Just the way the cloud is metered and things, do end up being more costly in a lot of senses. Now,
I'm sorry, guys.
so, but now that they figured out certain things make a lot of sense out there. A lot of the big application vendors, they have like specialty applications for ERP or CRM. They're the ones deploying in. It used to be in the old days, your software vendor would hand you a list of, these are the requirements that you need to have to run our software.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case anymore. Now they're saying, here's how much it costs per month to use our software in the cloud, right? So that makes much more sense out there. They can deliver that very cost effectively compared to the old model. Certain things like email, file sharing, with Office 365, that's a much more cost effective model. So, but there are certain applications that still make, more sense to run, so what you're seeing in this mid-market space is not an abandonment to the cloud, but a reduction. Let's split off all these things that make sense and put them in the cloud, and then we'll have a much smaller infrastructure to manage on premise. But then there's some challenges even with that. With I got data in multiple places now. How do I aggregate reporting and statistics, and how do I manage all this? So, and those are some things that we help with.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. Like, it sounds like, because if maybe if I had a big business or like a more of a medium-sized business where I had to deal with that kind of stuff, I'd have a little bit of an idea. But I figure I still probably wouldn't know exactly what should be cloud,
right.
what shouldn't. So
and those are some of the conversations we that we help. One a frequent project we're doing now is Office 365 migrations. In that space. Because the small business, everybody's already there, right?
Yeah.
That was a bottom up swell there, right? And now it's kind of moving up to the ones that were harder to move because they had more complicated requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So we do a lot of Office 365 migrations now. Some pretty large scale ones. Universities where we're migrating, tens of thousands of accounts, up to the cloud. And that's something you have to be really plan out, cautious on how you do it, make sure nothing breaks in the meantime. It's a phased transition.
Are you allowed to name drop any of the bigger office transfers like that of some of the companies that you've done for?
I don't know. I probably want to get their permission first. I can say several largish universities and colleges in the area. We've done. That seems to be the most frequent one. We actually have 3 active projects right now for some good size colleges that we're doing in the within the state. So
now, and you mentioned Office 365 was bottom up with the smaller to medium sized businesses.
A lot of the cloud technology, that's the way it's going, right? You have these legacy infrastructures in the bigger companies that it's harder to move from. Where the smaller companies are much more nimble from a technology standpoint, they can take advantage of all the cloud.
Yeah. Now, and with those companies, I guess those are the more like your managed services type of clients. With them, I guess that's probably one of the first things you do is probably something like that, is getting everything on cloud.
Yep.
Security, I would guess, is probably one of the bigger things that you're dealing with.
Security is very big these days.
Yeah.
Just if you look at the news, it seems like every week there's some new compromise. We get several calls a week from some company somewhere has been crypto locker. That's the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
With the advent of as much as cool as I think Bitcoin and blockchain and all that technology is for us, and I think it'll do a lot of good for us in the long run. it has created this specter of availability where now instead of a financial gain for a hacker doesn't just have to be I'm stealing credit card numbers from Target, right? It can be locking up data at a small company and charging them to get it back. Right?
Okay.
So we're seeing that more and more. I think some of the statistics I saw in the small business space, something like 59% of them this year experienced some type of security incident.
Which, I mean, I think we were talking about this earlier. I was kind of surprised by it just because it doesn't seem like there's as much of an incentive,
Right.
for them to take advantage of something like that. I mean, because there isn't anything they can use from it,
Sure,
But,
sure. Yeah, but I mean, again, the fact that the data is not valuable to the hacker doesn't mean it's not valuable to the business, right? And if it gets locked out, they're willing to pay to get it back, So, yeah, I mean, and so much automation has been created. I mean, it actually is an industry all on its own, right? Just the underground industry of hacking people.
Yeah.
I mean, and so much automation has been involved there. They can get some virus or mass email or something out into the wild, and just get a small percentage of people to click on it. Then get their data locked up, and then all of a sudden it notifies the bad guy. Oh, I got a new victim here.
Yeah.
They just create a system that goes out and does this, and then they just sit back and wait for the emails to roll in, and and then they start going back and forth saying, I need and sometimes it's small amounts. I need $1,500. I'll give your data back for $1,500, and the companies have insurance. The insurance pays it, right? And they get their data back, and the guy walks away with $1,500.
Yeah, I was watching a video the other day with John McAfee, and he was talking about how really nowadays he said that antivirus stuff is almost moot. He said like 99%, I think is what he said. 99% of the hacks nowadays, they aren't somebody going in on a computer into your system. He called it social engineering, where it's like either a phishing email or just calling asking for passwords.
That's correct.
Things like that. So I guess that's what you guys are dealing with.
Yeah,
I guess.
Those are the security issues, right? Spear phishing, where these hackers are smart. They're going to your website, right? They're looking at who the CEO is. They're trying to spoof that CEO's email and send an email to the accounting manager listed and say, hey, can you wire this money to this bank account? I mean, we've had 2 instances of customers in the past 6 months that happened to, and they did it, because, hey, here, I got what looks like a legitimate email from my boss to wire money.
Yeah.
And
that's crazy to hear, just because since you just you mainly serve just the local area, right?
That's
Columbia,
correct,
Missouri, and to have 2 of them just that quickly, just right here is kind of surprising.
And they're even starting to do it with, I haven't seen this, but I've, read stories where, they're even targeting larger corporations and they're doing it with voice calls. So they're taking media footage from CEOs, CFOs, and actually recreating a voice, and can do a voice conversation over the phone to tell a CFO to send out send funds somewhere.
That's because whenever they started coming out with the deep fake stuff, with the faces and hearing the voices, I've seen it mainly used for comedy, with people just putting in somebody's voice or whatever. But the thought was, well, I wonder how people like that are going to use it, but I didn't realize it was actually already being used.
Yes, they're starting to target larger organizations where they can get media and voice footage of C-level executives, and they're trying to socially hack into the company to get to gain for a financial gain somehow.
Yeah. Now you aren't probably dealing with that.
Yeah, correct.
But so with some of these smaller, medium-sized businesses that you are helping with some of these issues, what are some things that they can do on their own? I guess that.
Well, the biggest thing is training. Some kind of security awareness training for the staff. Even a 5-person office. We have some training designed to do security awareness. Where here's what not to do, here's what not to click on, here's cues that you may see, and then we even do phishing testing, where we would send out to all the staff, your Amazon package has arrived, click here, or we notice certain things about your bank, your bank account, click here and see how many click, how many fill out, and they can report back to management. and then do a security awareness training, and then maybe another campaign on the backside to see what the improvements have been.
Yeah.
So, and then there are some software tools and stuff that you can put in place. I mean, antivirus, as McAfee said, is dead for the most part. I mean, just to get in the weeds technically a little bit here. I mean, most of the antivirus out there is based on what they call a signature based. So I have a database of all the known viruses, and I look at incoming code and does it match anything in this database? If so, I keep it out. But
I guess there's just so much now.
That database, all the bad guys have it, right? I mean, so they can test their code against that database and say, okay, yeah, that failed. Oh, we tweaked it just enough. This one's going to get by, right? So you have to go to.
It's literally like the same way. I guess it's similar to how viruses almost actually like the immune system.
That is correct.
Works,
yeah. It's just like that. So what you have to have are tools, antivirus, anti-malware tools that can use artificial intelligence, machine learning, and things like that to look for patterns in the code, right? So I don't just check against this database, right? I look for patterns, and what's happening, right? What is this code doing, right? Is a file suddenly encrypted, right? Well, let me double check what is this supposed to be happening, right? And watching those type of things, and have remediation capability, in the software, and those tools are a little more expensive, I mean, it's not like I can go out and buy a cheap antivirus and it's effective, right? For businesses, I mean, you have to look at a deeper level of security, and obviously that's something that we provide to our managed services customers, and then consult some of our project customers on how to implement those things.
That was going to be my next question. I was like, I didn't figure I could just log onto my personal laptop and be like, oh, there's that one AI.
Sure.
Okay. So you mentioned one of the other things that sparked for me whenever you mentioned the voice, which this doesn't really connect too much except for the voice is in there. But on the networking and security stuff, the IP, I'm not sure if you can telephony or the voice. I noticed it seemed like that was something big that you guys were hitting on that I didn't know anything about.
Sure. I mean, and it's probably not, it's not a core central component to our business, but IP telephony, right? Voice over IP phone systems is something that, we kind of toy around with and play around with. I mean, especially in our managed services customers, our small business, and I guess just to kind of redefine again, what the differences are. Again, we kind of have the one side of our business, our project, customers, and then the one side being, our customers that don't have IT staff, right? Yeah. They kind of look to us for everything, So usually in some type of subscription-based model, they pay us a monthly payment. We take care of everything. We got a fully staffed help desk. We manage all their backups. We manage all their security, and they're always asking, what can you do more for me around technology, right? So I mean, some things that we do in that space are, the growth areas for us is, phone systems, right? We can do IP-based phone systems, even video surveillance. We're starting to, do more of, where we're putting, cameras in, especially with some of these smaller municipalities that we're in, or some customers that have some physical security needs. I mean, doing some more, IP-based video surveillance is, something that we're starting to, work on as well. So
okay, so with telephony, with this, is that basically just like an automated phone system, where like click one to go to this?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I mean, and that stuff was available in older phone systems. They call them key systems, but everything now is, it's IP based. You put it on the same network your computers are running on.
Yeah.
I mean, the evolution is even. I mean, you can still connect regular phone lines, like regular, what they call POTS lines, or digital circuits, these T1s in there. But everything is moving more towards SIP functionality now. So you basically you have a box, an appliance, you plug in your phone line, whether that's a SIP, a T1, POTS lines or whatever, and then and then we can handle all of that. I mean, when the call comes in, it goes to an automated message, or it rings these three phones up to 4 times. If no one answers, then it starts ringing these 3 phones.
Okay.
All the call routing functionality, voicemail, voicemail to email. That's the big thing too. Or mobility, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have my desk phone. It's got a direct dial number to it. If I'm going to be out of the office, I can hit a button, and if that phone rings, my cell phone rings. So they can call my office phone number, but my cell phone rings. Right? Just hit a button on my phone. Right? Those type of functionality. If someone leaves me a voicemail, I'll get it on my email. Right? So because we're mobile workforce these days, right?
Yeah. I wasn't sure because I noticed that you guys did a lot of stuff, and it talked about mobile your workforce mobility and
Sure.
and stuff like that. Okay, so sticking with the managed IT services, so it sounds like you guys. I mean, that's a really. I didn't even realize how broad of a range it was that you guys covered. So
Sure.
if they have any doubt, it seems like they could at least get in touch with you and probably.
Right.
If you didn't do it, you knew somebody.
Right. I mean, our goal there is to become, a CIO for those customers that can't afford one, right?
Yeah.
Part-time CIO to consult with them on their primary application, right? If they're looking at a new, CRM, I mean, we're not selling them the CRM, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're helping them vet their other vendors for that, So consulting with them on even, what kind of phone lines, what kind of internet connection, right? I mean, anything that has to do with technology, we want to be a part of that conversation so we can help them guide their business to be better, right?
Yeah.
I mean, our goal is to remove friction associated with technology from their business so they can focus on other things.
Out of sight, out of mind. InfiniTech's got it. I'm growing my business.
Yeah, and it even affects other aspects too, because we have customers that say, we're having a challenge with hiring qualified staff. How can technology help with that, right? So we're consulting on non-IT things, because that's what a CIO does,
mm-hmm.
right? I mean, a CIO comes in and says, what are the challenges to the business, and is there some function of technology that we can leverage to help remove that friction?
Well, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, too, it's not like you guys are just technology experts. At the end, you guys also built a technology business yourself. So, I mean, you guys are going to have...
So, we understand all the aspects of running a company, right? Whether that be from accounting to human resources and everything like that, and how technology interacts with those things, because, we're having those conversations with all of our customers, right? So, I mean, just general business consulting kind of, marketing, how can we automate marketing, right? This is... something right up your alley, right?
Yeah.
How do we do marketing automation? That's a function of marketing department, but it could touch IT.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that could touch IT, we like to talk about and offer solutions for it.
Yeah. On the last thing I want to ask you about on the technology side of things, which I guess back on security a little bit. One thing I'm seeing in the news a lot or on commercials a lot is the dark web monitoring stuff.
Sure.
Like a ton of dark web stuff. And I think a lot of people are finally like, I'm hearing about this enough, I probably should know what it means.
Right.
My basic understanding of it is I know there's almost like a hidden extra web that I guess that's where all the hackers go, all a lot of bad people hang out.
Certainly.
On the web. I guess my question would be what's the goal there for a lot of those people that are on there? I guess in dealing with businesses, and how does it work, and then where do you all play a part in the dark web stuff?
Sure. Like you said, the dark web is a series of encrypted servers and hosts out there that have don't have visibility from the main internet. They're harder to get to. You got to know how to get to them. And it's where a lot of digital crime takes place. A lot of these guys talking back and forth about how to crypto lock people, how to hack into people. How some of that code gets just distributed around. Drug trade. Things of that nature. A lot take place there. But one big thing is again, you got the higher end hackers that are going after Target, right? Macy's or Ashley Madison, if you hear that one got hacked, but and they steal information, right? They steal large list of people's names, addresses, phone numbers, credit card numbers if they can get them, email addresses, passwords, things of that nature. Well, now I have a product, I have a database of usernames and passwords, right? I need to sell that, right? And that's where I go. I go sell it in chat rooms and dark web forums and things of that nature. Well, it's good to have your ear to the ground in that space to say, hey, is anything of mine for sale out there, right? Has my username or password been compromised, right? Do I have any PII, right? Personally identifiable information out there? And so we have some services around, monitoring, those dark, web forums and databases and things like that says, if your business domain shows up out there in any way, someone's email address and password, we get notified and they can alert you, hey, this username and password has been compromised, it needs to be changed,
Gotcha.
It's not like we can do anything.
Yeah.
Like I can't delete it from the dark web.
Yeah.
I can only find out if it's out there and then, notify your staff accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got you. Well, but yeah, still at least better to know so that way you can take some kind of action.
That's right.
Okay, so obviously that stuff. I mean, it's some of it went over my head. Like some of it's real in depth, on the technology side of things. So getting into you a little bit. Whenever coming up, were you somebody who was really big into computers? Like, was this industry, like, no doubt this was going to be the industry that I was going to be headed towards?
No. So I'd always kind of had a little bit of a computer hobby,
Yeah.
I found technology kind of interesting, but I'm old, right? Back then it was a real geeky thing, right? It was too geeky for me, right? Even starting off in, college, it was, so I may take a few classes here and see if I have an interest, My main interest at the time was finance. I wanted to be a stockbroker. Actually, since I was probably this high, I wanted to be stockbroker or business was always some type of aspect of business, right? And I always, even from a little kid, I want to sit behind a desk, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to have a desk.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, even in college, when I was in college in the, early 90s, the computer classes were Fortran programming and C programming and this type of stuff. And, I took one or two and was like, yeah, this isn't for me, right? I'm not a programmer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then, then we started to see the internet and the evolution of the internet and, the democratization of technology, is where, you had all these big time geeky programmers then built systems that people built on. And now, you have all these layers that, we go so deep, right? I mean, we're not programmers here, right? We don't get into the code. We just, we get into the infrastructure and the software and things like that and understand how that level operates. And that's geeky enough for me. And then, and you merge that with running a business and everything. And, that's what, attracts me to it. I mean, most of my career has been in the computer field. I got in early into, some basic fixing computers and back in the early Windows 95 days, and thought, oh, this stuff's cool. It's geeky enough for me without having to get into, I'm programming stuff.
Yeah.
Right, so, and then I just stuck with it ever since. Pretty much all I've done.
Yeah. No, I mean, at this point now, like it's funny how it was the geeky thing at that point, and now you have to,
Really
like I was the same way where I was kind of thinking I want to be running a business of some kind, and I'm more interested in the creative side of it, but almost in order to use that creativity, you have to be there has to be some way or some ability to function with a lot of that technology or kind of know what's going on a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, even walking around trying to call your mom, you got to figure out how to use technology, right?
Yeah, and it's funny, and I've learned to really appreciate growing up in the era I have, to where like I'm able to provide value just based off of what's almost it almost feels like it's pre-programmed in me because I've been growing up with it for so long. Whenever I'm helping somebody that's a little bit older with something, even if it's just like some Facebook stuff, then it's you don't realize how much of an asset that you actually kind of grew up having. So in high school, what kind of stuff were you into?
Girls, we're all into girls in high school, right?
Yeah.
I played sports, football, ran track, I don't know. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a lot more years ago for me than for you. But I did. I had a little computer and Apple IIc back then, I think, and played with it a little bit. And I was into the finance. I mean, I was reading the Wall Street Journal in high school.
Yeah.
I always was interested with markets.
Do you still keep up with that stuff very much?
Not as much anymore. I've been probably been jaded by it a little bit. Based on I still am fascinated with business and startups. So I work a lot with startups. I invest in some startups.
Yeah.
I coach. I do some business coaching for some startups and stuff. The entrepreneurial scene in Columbia is actually pretty strong. A lot of up and coming tech companies. Coming out of the Missouri Innovation Center.
There's even an incubator here, isn't there?
Yeah. So and again, I've been over. I know the people that run the incubators here, and can work with some of them, with some of their clients, and kind of help out there.
Yeah. And
some things. I've done some networking with some of the incubators in St. Louis and Kansas City as well. So I know some of those folks. So that's probably the interesting side of business. The Wall Street side's a little. I'm a little probably jaded on that.
It's funny you say that, because I haven't been in it near as long, but I'm because I was interested in it too. I just now got my finance degree too, and I'm not planning on going the finance route at all. Even I'm kind of I'm interested in the investing side of it for myself a little bit.
Sure.
I think portfolio theory can be really fun.
Yeah.
And kind of cool to figure out what works. But in terms of actually digging into a company and getting excited about that as much, it seems like there's so much dishonesty sometimes with some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stock stuff, it's the people that really make it big on that. It almost seems like they're making money, I don't want to put it down too much, but almost like peddling the ideas or things that other people built. There's not new value being created. Which is what's exciting about a startup, is that there's just excited people that have a vision that they're going to go out and carry out, and
You're exactly right. Whereas there is sometimes a market shift in a new value proposition. We can look at a Facebook or Amazon or something that just rises up like that. Google.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot in that space is exploitative almost. It's less value driven. And then even from an investor standpoint, what I've felt and have come to feel over the years, invested in something that I help control the outcome of, right? If it's someone of a business I'm coaching, if it's my business that I'm investing in, versus I'm gonna put some money in Walmart and hope that they make the right business decisions to give me a return, right? It can be more risky, with investing in startups, investing in your own business, things of that nature. But sometimes I almost see it as less risky, right? Because then at least if I have some control over it, and obviously if you look at price to earnings ratios and things like that, you're getting a lot more value for your dollar in your own company and in a startup than some of the crazy price to earnings ratios that you see on Wall Street.
And I feel like even if you do mess up that way, then it's not like you could mess up 100 different ways probably in the stock. You probably can in business too, but I feel like if you're investing in similar businesses that you have a hand in, if you mess up, there's a lot more that you can take a value from that.
Correct.
To apply to the next thing, rather than just, I lost all this money and now hopefully I don't lose it on the next business I invest in. But I'm kind of the same way on I almost feel like I'm approaching a similar way on the marketing side of things, which who knows what's going to wind up happening. But the reason I got into that was just eventually I thought it'd be really cool to be I wanted to have a skill set where if I was sitting on the shark side of things on the Shark Tank, that I'd be like, well, he's the guy that's going to provide this marketing expertise, and then eventually, rather than kind of helping other businesses, even though I have a lot of fun and almost try to take ownership in that business that I'm helping myself, but almost I'll be the guy. Well, actually, it's just they're all my businesses that I'm getting to be that guy for. would be really cool. So I guess so getting into like kind of how to grow in a business. Um, yeah, so I kind of want to talk about like what it's taken to build like from kind of from having that little bit of an interest early on, getting into it, and then all of a sudden you built it into is I'm not sure if it's the biggest IT consulting, but if it's certainly growing quick, and it's one of and
yeah, I mean, we're certainly rapidly growing from a revenue perspective. Certainly. I mean, the one difference that it kind of is if you look who your competition is, right? If we say our competition is, the other local managed services businesses here, the fact that we have the project side, we have the technical expertise to be able to work in, a shelter insurance, that definitely changes, us from a revenue perspective.
Yeah.
To be a little bigger than, some of those, and it actually allows us to provide better service to our smaller businesses too, because we can take enterprise technology, repackage it, and deliver it to managed services. So yeah, I mean, we're certainly one of the larger technology providers in the area, from a revenue standpoint. But yeah, I mean, in terms of growing a business or this business or really any business, I mean, the first thing to learn is that definitely businesses are different, right? They require different growth methods. I think the one key differentiator is who your clients are, right? I mean, are you a B2B or B2C, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, a B2C, business to consumer is going to be much more marketing driven, right? Where a B2B is going to be much more relationship driven. And even a B2B, there's still a lot of marketing you can do, right? I mean, you got to have brand awareness, right? And you still want to establish relationships, with your customers. But that's just done a little bit differently, So,
yeah.
But I think that's the key is expand your customer base, right? How do we get more customers is the key to building any business, right? There's really two facets, right? I need to get customers, right? I do that from marketing and sales, and then I have to deliver a value to those customers. So operationals, operational value, and then communicating that operational value out to the marketplace.
And what's really cool about it nowadays, it seems like there's a lot of probably negatives with social media and everything taking off, but one of the really neat things to me is like in business, if you really go real well with your operational value that you bring, there's a lot more feedback that you're given for other people to see.
Correct.
It's not, you can't really, it's harder to dupe people anymore because
it really is,
because if you go out there and you try to scam people, you get a couple 1-star reviews and everybody knows, you're found out, so I feel like if you go out there and you provide that value, it almost like that provides you a lot of that marketing on that side of things, a lot of leverage for that,
Sure. That's so true. I mean, it helps the marketplace in general when we have, more transparency, into how companies operate.
Yeah. Now on with the two sides of your business there, whenever you were kind of developing that vision, was that always kind of the idea is like we're gonna have these two branches that are gonna allow us to provide more to the managed services idea, or like did that kind of take place just kind of naturally, organically? You kind of felt your way through it?
I think the idea was there from the beginning. We did kind of distinguish the two markets. I mean, like with anything in business, it's you're attracted to whatever the magnetism, right? Where's the spend at right now? Where's the low hanging fruit?
Yeah.
I think at first probably the low hanging fruit was more on the project side. There was a lot of project opportunity there, and then and that helped kind of fund, and the managed services side is much more operational driven, right? So there's a lot more infrastructure, or organizationally that has to be built, right, in order to do that really well.
Yeah.
It's there's more barriers to entry really in that market where a couple guys that are real smart and have some good relationships can get in the projects business pretty easily, right? It's
gotcha.
We know how to consult. We got some relationships and some contacts, and we can get in there and do this, right? Where there's a lot more to the managed services piece. Organizationally, there's a lot more staff requirements. Some division of labor that has to happen for efficiency purposes,
Mm-hmm.
right? To keep, market prices in line and, things of that nature. So it's a longer road to hoe, but at the same time, it's more stable, because I'm building all these systems,
Mm-hmm.
That then, once I have everything built, then I'm tweaking them, right?
Yeah.
Versus, everything's a one-off on the project business, right?
Yeah.
So I start fresh, I do everything,
Mm-hmm.
we have the revenue generated out of that, but I got nothing
Yeah.
left, right? I'm starting fresh on a new project again, where all the investment in time and effort and people in this side of the business, kind of pays off for the long run.
Mm-hmm. That's actually kind of surprising to me. I mean, not. I mean, the way when you explain it, it makes a lot more sense. But the project stuff sounds so massive in scale sometimes, to where I'm like, that's why you guys, being what you are in size, is able to really go out and service some of these really bigger
and
clients
that's
around,
true. That is true, but if you have 20 years experience in doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually easier than building this other thing, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting, but yeah, I mean, if you really know what you're doing, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess you can say, yeah, it took 20 years to build up, but we've done that, right? We've built that knowledge over 20 years and have that industry knowledge, so that's already built, right? So.
Gotcha. So, and I would have, and with you talking about kind of picking the low hanging fruit, that's kind of how I would have figured, especially like whenever you talk about B2B businesses or this industry in particular. I would figure that you almost need to. There's a lot more pivoting involved probably than like the big, like, because like if you come out with in a B2C thing, if somebody has a vision for a t-shirt company and they're able to market it nationwide, they're probably going to find a market that's similar to who they are, and they're able to really like carry out this vision. And I figure with you guys, it's more like, well, we kind of got to figure out what's happening with technology. We got to take a pivot to that, a pivot to what these businesses are needing, a pivot to what the hackers are doing. Like, there's so many things.
You are so correct. Yeah, I mean, it is a constant pivot, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, and it is technology, so it does change. But yeah, I mean, really understanding the marketplace is really important, right? Constant feedback from your customer base on different ideas that help them, and actually being able to then to say, especially, I mean, on the managed services side, and even on any business, both sides of our company, is you want to be able to package up, right? You want to keep one-offs to a minimum. So say, okay, if we see one customer experiencing this, especially if you start looking at a specific industry, right? A specific industry experiencing these type of problems, we get the feedback from that. We can come up with a service offering based around that, satisfies this customer, but then also we can market it to these 7 other customers over here too.
Yeah.
So.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, I mean, you're constantly commissioning and decommissioning service offerings based on market feedback. So it's not like you're pivoting the whole business, but I mean, you change your service offerings a lot.
No, I see what you're saying. So with, obviously there's a lot of things changing going forward. Are there any trends that you could see happening, or is there any going forward, like what kind of vision do you have? I mean, obviously you guys are quickly gaining a foothold on the managed services thing and like kind of taking off with that in a big way. Is that where you see a lot of stuff going forward, kind of going in that direction, or do you really know?
Yeah, I mean, you're certainly going to see a lot more growth in that area, and that continue to push up market, right? I mean, we're even seeing that actually in large enterprise now. I mean, we still have a lot of contacts in big companies like Dell, HP, Cisco. I mean, and these companies are starting to kind of come up with managed service offerings for large enterprise. You even see it actually in healthcare is almost completely went that way. I mean, all the hospitals and everything, they've been mandated under some of the healthcare laws to have electronic medical records and things like that. Well, it quickly spiraled out where they could no longer actually afford to control that. So it's all been outsourced to a few large companies that essentially hospitals and clinics.
Yeah.
They just sign a contract now, well, this large company takes care of all of our electronic medical records. So all the infrastructure, software, everything is just all this one big company that specializes in that. So I think you'll continue to see that, continue to see a lot more security focused around, IT security monitoring, even all the way down into a 5-person, accounting office, right? It's because it's, such a critical component. And then you look at the bleeding edge, with things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, even how does augmented reality and virtual reality start to play into business? I mean, there's blockchain. They're talking about blockchain for voting security, right? And even creating organizations based around blockchain, right? So I mean, there's a lot of bleeding edge out there that who knows once that starts to firm up into specific value propositions for the market, what that's gonna look like.
So with that, like, as you guys kind of find your foothold in that, and like, is there any particular variable that you guys have to pay attention to, like growing? Like what is it that you guys really have to focus on in order to make sure that you guys are constantly like on the cusp of everything? Or is it like, or I guess in terms of finding good people and good, because I guess whenever you're growing, you gotta develop leaders, and to develop leaders, you gotta replace yourself, and and I guess there's probably a lot of people that probably don't even think that they could be tech people,
right?
That might actually fit in pretty well in the industry, since everything is headed that way anyways.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you certainly see, staffing during growth with any any company is a challenge. Especially in a little bit tighter job market. I think we're in a little bit tighter job market now. So, but yeah, I mean, the younger generation obviously is much more tech savvy. And can adapt to tech roles pretty easily.
Gotcha. So what kind of people are you looking for? So with that in mind, in growing, is there any specific, I guess, for people even looking to get into the industry, or just that want to be part of a growing company? What kind of things are you looking for, and what kind of things should they be working on?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a difficult question, I guess. I mean, we generally like to look at some type of experience, but we hire for raw skill as well. People that are, that can understand, have a basic understanding of the underlying technology that can, they may not know the screens. We can teach this the screens, and even then, everything is moving more toward like heavy automation, heavy process driven, right? So the big thing is customer service, right? The soft skills are still extremely important, because everyone touches the customer, right? What we focus on is 100% customer satisfaction, right? And a guided experience for our customers that's positive, right? And so at every point, as they interface with our company, whether that's in an account manager, a sales, a billing person, right? A help desk, or an engineer that may be going on site to implement new systems. How they interact is key. So customer service and those soft skills are certainly very important. As well as just a general technical understanding.
I find that's one of the things I find really interesting about the economy going forward, is that with everything becoming automated, you see so many more people that are not just on the customer service thing, which I actually hadn't thought of it in that way, is that having more value. I was thinking like on the even like the people that do stuff like this for a living, that set up their video and like do vlogs about whatever, like entertainment almost has such a value, because the value they would otherwise be performing with like either math or any kind of like technical skill that can now be automated is it's happening, and they're just
Sure.
like it's I don't know. It's just kind of interesting to see that shift take place.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really kind of two. If you really think about how the automation is taking over things, right? I mean, you really have a couple layers of need, right? You need the folks that can set up and maintain the deep automation stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, in our world, I mean, a lot of is driven by vendors, right? I mean, we have a lot of tools that we're subscribing to from vendors. Now, we have some integration pieces and some technical stuff that has to be done, but I mean, a lot of that's being done, in Silicon Valley somewhere, right? I mean, we're a customer just as we're a provider, I mean, and then beyond the people that create the automation, it's really beyond that. It's kind of training, right? It's the interaction, right, between the customer. I mean, the customer directly to the automation. There's a facilitation that needs to happen, and that's where your support people come in, right? Your technical support, sales support is really training your customer how to interact with your business and your business systems, right? Because the better you can do that, the more efficient you can make that process. The more profitable your business.
Yeah, I mean, heck, the same way with like the marketing and stuff too. Like everything, like once I put a campaign in place, I got to let it go and see what happens,
Right.
But if that little bit of getting it all set up and having the right content, the right people targeted, everything like that, if that's a little off, then whatever budget you put in there is going to be off,
Sure.
So, I mean, that's where I think like testing really plays a big part in it too, or having people that are experienced and know what they're doing and setting everything up probably the same way with on the IT side of things. But I think that's about everything that I had ready to go for you.
Okay.
So I appreciate you you taking the time to
No,
talk with me and do the day.
No problem. It was enjoyable.
Okay. Cool.